Welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Platform, where our mission is to empower you to reach your goals, whatever they may be. I'm joined as always by our other host, Mr. Corey Seague.
We blessed. I just so happen to work hard.
Right now. If there's something in your life that you want to change, commit today and stop wasting
Get 1%
time.
better every single day and do something positive.
We want you to go out and get it. If you don't live by nothing else, live by 2 R's. You either got reasons or you got results. Choose which one you have in your life today. Welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Platform, where our mission is to empower you to reach your goals, whatever they may be. I'm joined as always by my main man, Mr. Corey Seague. Corey, how's it going today?
Well, after that, man, hold up. No, I'm good, man. I'm good. I was feeling that though. And for those of y'all listening, man, check that. If you're looking at this on listen to the live. If you're listening to this like in your car, you got your phone down, you're listening on another platform or something. Go to YouTube and check the intro out. That's all I'm gonna say. Because Tyrus did it again. He did it again with the intro. I'm ready though.
Yeah, they got the world premiere right when you did. You didn't even get to see the preview.
Hey,
on you.
Hey, nah, I'm fine with it. That was a great gift for the day, man. My day is done. I'm gonna check out after this.
Oh, perfect. Hey, kick it off and start it right. So, Corey, I thought about when we did our live on our other live on Saturday. We talked about, being in the funk a little bit, having off week. And so that made me think about hearing a lot of individuals that talk about being in the funk, being down in the dumps, having bad days, that type of thing. And actually, that week, I had a week long funk. Like, I ain't do nothing. I think for me, and I know everybody's situation is different, and we'll talk about different ways to get out. But for me, sometimes I look at where I am and where I want to be, and I want to be there so much faster to where I'm like, I'm not getting that traction. I don't even want to move. I don't want to do anything. And so at that point, I got down into I ain't doing nothing. I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to be on the computer. I don't want to even try. And that's not good, because when we do get down into those kind of situations, we break our consistency and our discipline. And it may be one or two things that I could have done that week that would have propelled me forward. And if we think about what Jim Rohn used to talk about, he's talking about write down all your ideas every day immediately, because one great idea can be the $1 billion idea. And so when I think about that, the one thing I could have done during that week, I didn't do anything, could have been that thing to get me where I wanted to be. And so talk to me about that, Corey. To first tell me about, because in that week we talked about, I had a week I was in the funk. You had a couple off days. What caused your off days?
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of similar. I was thinking, to be honest with you, I was thinking too big picture. Meaning I was like, man, this is where I should be. This is where I want to be. Like, this is what should have happened by now. But it hasn't, and I feel like it should be something else at this point. And it was that coupled with just the ins and outs of day to day, and really, really like relationships that I have with people. And so all of that like accumulated at one time, and it's like, okay. And then I tap into my like, let's get this done. But in my mind, the let's get this done was, man, I need to step back. Like, maybe I need to cut some folks out my life, like that type of stuff. And then I just fell into the funk, and I was like, well, man, you know what? Let me just go back into my little corner and reassess. But yeah, it was really coupled between me thinking too far ahead and also looking at some of the current relationships that I have. And I'm like, what's that look like 4 or 5 years down the line? What's that look like 6 years down the line? When you're dealing with somebody and it's already like, look, there's a funk going on right now.
And I like what you said about reassessing, and I think that that is one part that can be negative. Reassessing can be positive, but also if we get stuck in that cycle, it can turn into a negative. And if you're listening, think about situations that may cause you to get into a funk. What is it that, oh man, I paid all the bills and my paycheck's small. I don't have much left over. Is it you want to be somewhere that you're not, or you're in a dead end job, business not running right? Maybe your relationships aren't jailed or moving in the direction you want them to. So, what is it that could cause you to set back? And we want to discuss strategies on how to get out of that. And so, Corey, we're gonna play the bounce game. I'm gonna give a strategy. I'm gonna bounce the ball to you. You knock a strategy out, and we'll just come up with. And as you're listening, we ain't playing this. We coming off the straight off the top of the head. So you getting real live strategy just off our minds. And so I'll jump out there with, for me, I get in a funk probably once a month, and I want to lessen the time period because some people have short funks. They get in it, couple hours, they out, boom. Me, I grind and I go so much that when I do fall back, it's for a week. It's for at least a week. So I want to cut that back. Now, what I do, and one of the things that does work for me is talking to my wife, actually letting her into what I'm thinking, what I'm going through, what I'm feeling at the time, and then listening to her solutions or even just her ideas about what I'm going through. And that helps immensely for me because one is somebody from the outside, even though she's my wife and right in the house, is still outside of my brain. So hearing somebody from the outside bring a different perspective in a different way. And we talk about the assessment all the time. Me being on one end of the spectrum and her being on the other gives me a different viewpoint and hits really the blind spots. And it's like, okay, you want X, Y, and Z, and you working towards that. You can't rush it, and you want to rush. So that balance helps me. So my number one tip would be, hey, if you're going through something, if you feel like you're in a funk right now, find somebody that you can reach out to that can you can just air it out and then let them offer information, and you can let them know. You can say, hey, I just need to air this out. I just need a listener, or I need someone that's going to give me some solutions or some ideas. So find you that person, air it out, hear what they have to say, and see how you can implement. Oh, you on that mute.
Yeah, man. I guess I muted myself on that one, but no, that's good. You have to you have to find somebody, and I think for me, just to kind of piggyback off that, then I'm gonna give y'all my thing is just find somebody that objectively, and it sounds like even though and I'm gonna just call out a lot of men out there. Your wife is a yes woman, and then you say, oh man, this is what's going on in my life, blah blah blah, and they're like, you know what, that's wrong, versus them objectively giving you information. So it sounds like she kind of steps back and says, look, I get it that you're my husband, but let's talk about what the actual issues are, versus just like, because sometimes people can feed into your funk by just saying, oh yeah, this is this is what's going on, blah blah blah, just for the sake of empathizing with you or something like that, which is not really necessary. So for me, the biggest thing about the funk, and this is what I had to learn early on, was because I would get into the funk and then I would be like, I'm just in it. But I need to identify what it is, right? So number one, and it sounds simple, identify what is the reason. What's the reason why you're in the rut, why you feeling the funk? Like what's the thing going on with you? And there's a lot of times where when I was younger, I was just like, oh, I just don't feel right. Like I feel down and out and I don't know what it is or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. I just am, I just is. So start by identifying what it is, because I think once you identify what it is, then you can take the and remedy it from there. So that was my short and sweet of that one. What you think, Tyrus?
Oh, that's good because I find myself saying that same thing. Not like sometimes I'm like, man, I just don't know what it is or what's wrong. And what when I do think about it deeply, I then identify and say, hey, most of the times I'm in the funk because I'm not where I want to be. entrepreneurial wise. I'm not where I
Mhm.
want to be business wise. I'm not bringing in that income that I want to bring in so I can enjoy all these other things at the end of the prize or at the end of that tunnel that we're constantly driving down. So that is I would say number one, figure out what it is, because once you do that, you can then communicate that to the next person and say, hey, this is why I'm actually feeling this way versus I don't know what's going on. And if you are in a situation where you don't know what's going on and you just cannot put your finger on it, that might be a situation for a licensed professional. We're not people here that shy away from therapy. If that's a need, then that's a need, and that person can help you objectively find out, okay, what's really going on in life. Because sometimes our faults could be depression, and depression could be from chemical or hormonal imbalances, not just something tragic or big in your life. So we did have Corey's brother on to really talk us through that. So that's something that if you can't put your finger on it or identify it, you might want some help. So that is definitely a good tip of identification. My next one, Corey, would be once you identify it or once you share it and get some ideas back, and you talked about earlier the reassessing. My next thing would be reassess what you're doing and why. If my goals and I'm in a funk about not being or meeting my business goals, then I need to reassess what those goals are and then the level of importance to me and then the why behind it. Why do I want to be a multimillionaire? Why do I want to have my freedom of time? Why do I want to build generational wealth? Why do I want X, Y, and Z? And so you might need to think about what is your why and how important it is to you. Because once you can identify that, that is a part that can help lift you up from that funk. And I'm gonna go deeper in that with another principle, but I don't want to tie them together.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good one too. Is like the really for me reassessing what goes on is like a big. It's how I get out of the funk, because then I start looking at, okay, what's the reason? So I've identified what the reason is, and then I start saying, okay, how do I need to move? Like, what's the next step basically? Because there's a lot of people who, and this will go into my next principle. There's a lot of people who get into it and then they just say, I'm just here, and then they never say, okay, so what does this mean? What does that mean I need to move from? What does that mean I need to do next? What is there anything that I need to do, or is it just myself saying, you know what, it's just here for now? So yeah, that's what I'll say to that one, and that goes into my next point of don't be afraid to, and I'm gonna preface this with, just like you said, certain people have hormonal imbalances, chemical imbalances where you need help. I'm not saying that for this person you got to get the help. For the average person, I guess you could say, or for the person who doesn't have like an actual mental health issue, you just in a funk right now or whatnot, embrace it. Because I think a lot of times is like, especially as men, we're like, oh man, I can't feel feelings. There's no way that I can, because we listening to music and we listening to podcasts and we listening to audio books and all this stuff. And it's like you got to go get it. And you got to wake up every day and go get it. Like it's okay to have feelings. And sometimes we try to discredit that and we feel in a funk and then we get frustrated more because we don't allow ourselves to say, well, you know what? It's all right to feel like this right now. I'm okay feeling sad today, or I'm okay feeling out of it today. Um, and let me rephrase that. Not necessarily that it's okay to just sit in there. It's I embrace my own feelings and I'm aware of my own feelings. And it's okay for me to have feelings. And I'm not gonna frustrate myself more with just, well, now I'm even more upset because I'm sad. Now I'm even more upset because I'm frustrated. And a lot of times it's like we try to hide those feelings and try to, make it seem like it's something else. So I say just embrace it, man, because having feelings is okay. And I think, and I'm just gonna speak to the fellas, for example, for a little bit. A lot of times, we're told you don't have feelings, you can't show that type of emotion, or you're weak because you're in a funk, or like you feel bad about something. Man, embrace that stuff and be okay with it.
Hmm. Yeah. So we identify it, we talk about it, then We begin to understand our why, our purpose. We revisit, reassess, and then we embrace it. And we say, hey, this is a particular or specific time that I'm in this situation right now, that it's okay. It's fine to be here for right now in this moment. Don't create a bigger problem out of it. So that's what I got from that. Don't make it a taboo to say, hey, I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling down in the dumps today.
Yep. Yep.
Cool. So my next part then, once we're in that, I think that for majority of us, especially business owners, especially entrepreneurs or people that are always seeking the next thing, I think that we have to take our eyes off. And for me personally, this is what begins to work for me, and this is what I'm continuously working on, is falling in love with the process and not the end goal or the end result. So if I am, let's just use weightlifting. You might want to say, well, I want to bench press 350, and that's the goal. Well, you could be so hung up on bench pressing 350, when you don't hit it, you fall into the funk. And I'm not getting there fast enough. This isn't working. My training isn't working. My trainer isn't working. And then you don't want to do it no more. But if you actually fall in love with bench pressing, just the finding a way to love the everything about bench pressing, the techniques, the transition between one weight to another, going to the gym or going to your own home gym, putting the weights on. If you can find out how to love the process, before you know it, you will get to the destination, because now you're not so focused on it. And that might sound weird, because people say you need to focus on the goal, you need to focus on the goal. But I think at a high level, yes, you need to keep the eye on the goal, but your focus should be on the process, because the process is what is going to actually get you there. So for me, that begins to work, because I'm okay, what is the process? How do I actually get to my goals? What are all the small steps and milestones? And then adding this in, Corey, is the celebration of it. So instead of saying, man, I bench 110 today, okay, next week I hit 120, next week I hit 130, I ain't moving fast enough. Maybe between each 10 pounds that you are able to increase, you stop and celebrate and enjoy it. And instead of getting in a funk because you're not getting the 350 fast enough, you can continue to be consistent and enjoy and celebrate every time you hit those 10-pound increments. And that way you start to fall in love with the process. You reprogram your brain to look for many milestones and celebrations instead of big ones at the end of a long period of time. And then also your brain releases those positive endorphins and chemicals, because you say, okay, boom, I set a milestone to hit 10 pounds each week. I'm hitting that. I'm moving forward. It lessens the chance of the funk to come and happen to you.
No, and that's good. And as you were talking through that, I was like, yo, it's that literally happened. Like I told y'all before, I played football or whatnot. And so I remember I was a freshman going into my sophomore year in high school, and one of me and my good friends, we always used to have these competitions on hang cleaning. So y'all know the cleans where you got to come up, you know what I'm saying? So not power. We never used to power clean that much in high school. We used to hang clean. So that means from your thighs on up. And so man, we're going into our sophomore year, and my friend I think he had hit like 250 or something like that. And I was like, oh man, I got to get it. Right. And so I was like stuck forever on 225. I feel like I couldn't get past 225. I would hang clean the mess out of that 225, get to 230, 235 and be like, oh man, I can't do it. And so what happened was I had to like continuously just go. And again, the process, right? So even if I got 225 that day and I was good, or maybe I got to 230 the next day and I was like, dang, I'm trying to get to where he was. I had to realize, it takes time. And as long as you continue to work in it, it's like there were so many lessons that I learned trying to get there than it was from the actual result. Mm-hmm. So that's like a lot of people, they try to look at that end result and say, man, I got to get here. But it's like, really, the journey is everything in between. That's what makes you who you are when you get there. I even remember, speaking of freshman year, man, a lot of people were like, oh man, Corey's really not that hot of a guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Athlete and stuff like that. Snap back, go to my senior year, and I'm big man on campus now. And now everybody's like, oh man, that's the guy to worry about. Like, that's the man, don't run the ball at him. Like, don't do that type of stuff. But it's everything that happened from freshman to sophomore to junior to senior year. And some people, I always believe that, the old cliche, hard work beat talent when talent don't work hard. A lot of people look at their talent, they be like, man, I'm sweet, I'm cold. And then they just kind of half do whatever, right? But in the meantime, you got somebody. I feel like I was never the most talented person. I didn't run no 4.5, 4.4 as no linebacker, nothing like that. Like cats are doing today. I didn't bench press 400 pounds coming out of high school. I didn't squat 800 pounds coming out of high school. Nothing crazy like that. Now I could, Tyrus. I could hang clean the mess out of something. So I was in the mid 300s going into college, and I went to college, and I was like, "That's all y'all doing right now." But anyway, what happened in between that though was me doing extra sprints, me lifting twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. Even I was thinking about this the other day. Man, I used to have to walk 3-4 miles back home from where my school was, and I didn't have a ride or nothing like that because my mom was working. So it's like in between that, I'm like, bro, now that I'm older, I'm like, shoot, go run or walk 4 miles, man. What time do I have to do that? And so it's like that was a workout in itself. Now that I think about it, when I was younger, but it's everything that happened in that process. Then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, well, Corey's arrived now," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I've been working for this." So it's a lot of stuff like that people just want to. They want that end result, and I'm glad you talked about the process. They want that end result, but it's truly everything in between that. That's what really makes us who we are. And so I'll just get into my next topic here. I think that you have to set aside some time to be creative in how you move or whatever it is. Sometimes we're so caught up, and we were talking to one of our coaching clients yesterday, and he's like, man, I'm just go, go, go. I get home, play the kid, go, go straight to work. And sometimes, you're going to find yourself burnt out, and you got to go back and say, you know what do I enjoy doing? And it's something I learned from my brother, right? He said, man, people clown me about playing video games and stuff like that. But he was like, I never get burnt out, because he's like, I always set aside time for me to do something that I enjoy. And so even for myself, it's like, okay, so what is it that you truly enjoy, and go do that. Like, whether that's, for me, sometimes that's just going in nature. Now it's cold as I don't know what right now in Houston, so I can't go outside right now. For those of you who don't know, it's like 30 something degrees. It's supposed to be like 6 on Monday. So I'm good. But yeah, just go in your mind and become creative with whatever it is that you're trying to do, like, and find your peace. And so for me, that's going outdoors. Sometimes that's just like watching random stuff on TV. Like sometimes it's me recording some stuff on my computer. I ain't never gonna use it, but I'm just recording it, and I'm getting whatever it is out of me. But I think that, and you kind of touched on this earlier, movement kind of helps you get out of that funk. For me, that movement is honing back in on something that I truly am enjoying, that's different than what I've been doing normally, because we kind of get into that same old routine every single day, and you wake up, do this, we're done. Wake up, do this, and we're done. So yeah, so that's my take on it.
Yeah, definitely movement, because all the way to a physical level, if you don't move, you're gonna get stiff. You're truly gonna be stuck. So moving, even if it's mental movement, helps get us out of that funk. Here's my next one, and I'm gonna steal this from my man Tyrell. He always talks about your mantra, your mission, your vision. What is that thing that you say to yourself? And so for me, I didn't have a mantra, and I'm still working on what my mantra is, my I am statement, your who am I statement. And I'm working towards that, because when you get into these situations, because Corey, I think that you believe the same. There are life situations gonna happen to you. It's not gonna always be smooth sailing. Everything's not gonna check. It's gonna boom, something gonna hit you, and then you're gonna fall back. But having a mantra, a I am statement, can help you in those times where you just remind yourself that I am X, Y, and Z. This is my purpose, my goal, and then you keep moving, like Corey said. And so, creating, if you don't have a mantra, if you don't have a I am statement, a who you are statement, and if you don't know what that is, because I didn't know what it was until recently, it's just a statement of where you want to be, what you stand for, what your core values are. All of those things mix into one. Something that you can say. You don't have to make it a paragraph long because you want to be able to repeat it to yourself throughout the day when you run into these things. So it might be something like, I am healthy, happy, and physically in control of my body. X, Y, and then continue from there. So if you don't have a mantra, start developing one. Start developing one around who you want to be. What do you stand for? What is your mission? What are your values? And wrap all of that into a simple statement that you can repeat to yourself throughout the day to will yourself and move yourself along. Because here's something about the subconscious mind and the brain: it doesn't know whether the information that it hears is true or false. What it does is it gravitates towards the one that you tell yourself the most. So if you think that you're, oh man, my life is hard and everything going wrong, and you keep repeating that, you are going to trap yourself into that. And then your brain will move your body into situations that's going to turn out wrong for you because of perspective. And you might think, oh, that's just wishful thinking. That's just what they talk about, the power of positivity. It doesn't work. Keep saying that you're a millionaire enough times. Your subconscious mind will start to pick out those situations that will move you in that direction. And the clearest picture of that to prove it is when you buy a vehicle, a new brand car. For some reason, you see that car everywhere on the road now. You didn't see it like that before. It's because the car was always there. The color, everything was always there. Your subconscious mind didn't notice it because you were in your zone. You were doing what you do, your day to day, your routine. You're on autopilot. But when you created that break and you got this vehicle and it introduced something new to your mind, now you see it everywhere. Now you're more aware. So don't think of this as just some magic that I'm talking about. This is true because if you continuously repeat something, it becomes a part of your autopilot, and then your brain begins to move you. You start hearing stuff. Stuff don't just pop out of thin air. It don't just show up. It's always been there. Now you're focused on hearing it. Now your brain is like, oh, they talking about money, or they talking about an opportunity, or they talking about position of growth. Let's go to that direction. So make sure that you create a mantra to get to where you want to be, and something that you can repeat throughout the day.
No, and watch this. That don't even get off the car yet. Like when you're going to buy the car, and I'll just talk about this. Like when I got my truck, I used to have this Hyundai Sonata, and it was nice. It's the first car I had ever bought. But I said, man, I got to get this truck because I'm more of a truck person than I am car. And so, man, I've been looking. I got a Dodge Ram, right? Been looking, and I was like, all right, where the deals at? And I started, and I was like, oh man, all these deals started popping up magically because I was like, I'm gonna get this Ram, and I was like, nah, price still too high. And then all of a sudden, deals within my range started popping up, and I was like, ooh, that makes sense. And then I was like, let me see what I can do. And I kept telling myself, I'm like, man, I'm about to get a deal on this truck. And then all of a sudden, a deal popped up, and I was like, man, let me go ahead and check this out. End up being that's the truck that I got. So it's like every time I hear someone say I'm going to go get a new vehicle, all of a sudden they magically get the new vehicle. They don't necessarily need the new vehicle. They just say I'm going to go get it. But the issue is that a lot of people don't scale it higher than that. Like you said, I want to be a millionaire. And maybe it takes time, but maybe within the next 2 or 3 years, you went from making $40,000 to $70,000. Maybe the next 3 years after that, you went from making $70,000 to $150,000. And so it's like, even scaling back, like you said, understanding that even though you might not have gotten to that 350 that you're trying to bench, you were still at 230, 240, 250. And you got to celebrate those small wins, even though you hadn't gotten to the necessarily end result. But man, so one of the things that I personally do is I got to get off social media sometimes, man. And the reason I say that is, and there's nothing wrong with my social media. I think on Facebook, I probably have the majority, not majority, it's probably half and half of people who are like complaining. Then the other half is like, hey, I think Facebook trying to get me, to be honest with you. Because so I got half the people on there who's like, man, pushing forward, making strides, doing great things. I got the other half that's like, oh man, and y'all know the algorithms, so they pop out what they want you to see.
Yep.
I'm like, I could have swore to God I unfollowed you. But the other half is like, oh, woe is me. These are the issues. Can I catch a break and all that other stuff. But my Instagram, for example, it's like straight positivity all day. Positivity, business, tips, goals and motivation and things that you can see daily. Sometimes I have to stop looking at that because I'm like, you're overloading your brain. And so that's causing you to look at your life currently and say, well, why am I not here? I'm looking at somebody who's, I don't know, 20 years old and they're, multimillionaire or something like that. I'm looking at somebody that's my same age and they pulling up in a Bentley or something like that. And so it's like when you look at that enough times, you like subconsciously, you just get frustrated with yourself and you're like, why am I not here? So a lot of times I have to get off social media and say, okay, what's the, like, you know what I'm saying? You went back to the why. Like, what's the real why behind this? Because you're looking at this cat in the Bentley. I'd be honest with you, Tyrus. I don't think I ever want to own a Bentley.
No.
I want Bentley money. If I wanted to buy it, sure, whatever. But I don't think I ever want to ride in a Bentley. I'd ride in somebody's Bentley, but I don't want to buy one. So you start looking at stuff like that, or like certain houses. Like you look at certain houses, and I'm like, I don't even want this house. Why am I upset? Like, but so you got to get off and you got to realize, like, look, man, it's okay. Like, refocus your goals. Stop looking at what everybody else has, because even though you have, and I got the book right here, Mindset, even though you have a growth mindset, it's not fixed. You can get there and stuff. Sometimes it will pull you in to be like, hey, by the way, I'm just letting you know you're still not there yet. And then you get frustrated. And so, yeah, man, social media a lot of times can play a big factor in. And to be honest with you, Tyrus, I could only imagine those individuals who don't really have that control over their mind yet. They're looking at stuff like that, and they're probably even more upset because they're like, oh, man, I'm not there. I got to get there. How do these people get there? They must be lucky. They must be blessed. So it's like stuff like that I got to push back from and say, man, let's reevaluate this situation, because I'm looking at stuff like, man, I need to be here. I don't even want that.
Right. And to your point, and I'm glad you brought up the social media piece, because that's it's twofold. It's one, you either getting a whole bunch of negativity and you just circle around that, or two, you looking at the lifestyle of somebody else that you don't know if it's even real or not. Like some of these people out there that's showboating or flossing, they don't have that. It's for the cameras, it's for the pictures, it's just a visual. So we get trapped into trying to get something that they don't even have. And like you said, I don't even want it. Now I might do a Bentley truck. They come out with a
Right. I need a Bentley truck.
it got to be a Bentley truck. It's got to be a fire truck for me to even want it. But you know, those things, we have been conditioned to say that if I live a wealthy or 1% lifestyle, this is what it looks like. And that's not true, because I don't know how many times they can show the picture of Mark Zuckerberg. I think it was Steve Jobs and Bill Gates or somebody else. It was them three in a picture, and they was plain as you could get. Not to say they don't spend their money on nice things, they do, but they're not focused, hyper focused on showboating and having the rims and all the things that the shoes. They're more hyper focused on ownership. You buying my product, I own it. That's how I make my money. That's what they're focused on. So if you want something that the super rich or the wealthy have, look at ownership. Just have that and figure out what does it take or what is it that you need to live and be happy. That goes back to what are your goals, your mission, your values, what is your mantra, reassessing your life. What is it that you want that will make you comfortable? Because Corey, to be fully transparent, at one point I wanted the big house and the cars and the jewelry. I mean, coming up with that Master P, that ice on my wrist. I wanted the diamonds and the shine too, the pink and ring. But as I got older, I'm like, that stuff not even important. It there's nothing that you could do with it. Who cares? Anyway, because I heard Master P one time and he said it himself. He was like, you can have all this jewelry, diamonds, but what do the people that's in the hood care about that? Other than they can snatch it off you if you walk through there because they're still broke, tired, poor, and hungry. So all this stuff that you're doing don't even matter. And so for me, I had to agree with you fully on that. I have to, like, now I look at social media for a purpose. I'm trying to get enough content, positivity, and then I'm gone. But I'm not watching somebody else's lifestyle anymore. And so to follow on with my next principle to add on to yours, I would say if you not even idolize, I don't want to use that word. If you look up to somebody or you really want to get into a place where somebody else is in, don't look at where you are and compare it to where they are now because they're at a different chapter. And then number two, make sure you want the grind that it took to get there. And I know I said this before on another podcast. When I think about ET or Les Brown or any of those guys, Tony Robbins, I, homeless, living in cars, not graduating from school, being broke. I don't even want that. I don't Their story came from a specific part of life that they had to travel through and get through in order for them to share and captivate and capture the world with their voices. I don't want that. Now, if I want to capture and reach people, let me do it in my own way. But I can't say, man, I want to be just like ET because shoot, ET went through a whole different process and I might not want his process. So if you are out there and you have somebody or you have an idea of where you want to go, don't judge it by where that person is or that company is. And definitely don't put yourself in their shoes when you don't know everything they went through. And so I got another principle, but I'm gonna let you go and I'm gonna circle back to that one. And
Yeah. So, yeah, and I mean, look, I can't preach enough how much people and I don't even know if I follow them no more, so they ain't gonna get me for this. But if they are listening, sure, whatever. You need to learn something from this. But so I knew this guy, and I'm talking about, I was like, this cat is living the life. I went to college with him. I'm not even sure if he graduated or not. But I'm like, he is living the life. And he was taking pictures riding in Lamborghinis, riding in Bentleys, going to the basketball games. It looked like he was like behind the scenes at the basketball game. He in the club with these celebrities and all this and that. And then Tyrus, you know what happened the other day is I told you Facebook be trying to get me. I thought I unfollowed him. And it said that he just had some kids, right? I think he had like twins or triplets or something like that, whatever. And so then my man starts his pictures start posting after that or whatever. For some reason, he starts getting up on my feed more, and I'm like, "Is it?" Because he posted something about I'm in my apartment or something like that, or like I'm in, and I was like, "Man, this cat, it looked real dingy in there." And I was like, what happened to the Bentleys and the cars and the clubs with the celebrities and all this other stuff? I'm like, man, you look like you you ain't even got a toaster back there, bro. And so, that's the type of stuff we kind of fall into, is when we look at that and be like, oh man, we the same age and you doing all this? Oh, that's crazy. What am I doing with my life? But in reality, it's all fake. It's I caught enough for it to look like, and now I'm feeding that to you. And to be honest with you, I almost want to approach him and be like, bro, what your career needs to be is marketing, because you had me fooled. You probably had the rest of the rest of everybody following you fool. But yeah, so let me get into my next principle here, or my next thing. And this kind of takes a couple steps back, because I probably should have mentioned this in the beginning, is start to write down every time you get into a funk, what's the reason? And you'll start to see the trend. And I'm a big advocate of noticing the trend in something. Start to identify what the trend is. Like, why is it that you keep getting into a funk? And then you may start to see whether it's, well, I'm just unhappy where I am with life right now. And you can start to identify, is it a person? Is it a thing that you did? Is it a situation that happened or something like that? You start to see time, like over time, year over year, that you can figure out, okay, well, maybe it's an individual. Every time you get into a funk, it's because you spent X amount of time around this person. Maybe, you got into a funk because I don't know, every time, and I'm just making this up, every time around income tax time, you feel like you don't have enough money. Whatever that might be, you start to see what that trend is, and then you can start to fix it from there. Because, and I read this somewhere, Tyrus, and I don't remember what article it was, but it said that the really successful people acknowledge that they're in a funk, or acknowledge that bad things happen to them. They close the gap on how long they allow that. And you talked about that too. They close the gap on how long they allow that thing to keep them down. And so sometimes what happens is, and it's unfortunate, somebody may pass in your family, and then you're in a funk for a year. You just lost that year, right? Somebody might have told you something bad, and now you're upset for a week, 3 weeks, something like that. Like, even for us thinking about it, because I'd probably say I get into a funk, maybe probably say once a month or something like that, maybe a little less than once a month. Um, think about even that much time, right? That's 12 weeks
Yeah.
that probably could have been doing something with. So the question is not that it's bad to fall into that. It's how do we reduce that to get even more time to be able to go and do what we do. So I want people to start to write down, when you start to feel that funk, what is it? Write that down, and then you will start to see how many. What funk number 3 was the same thing as funk number 1. Funk number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 was the same thing as number 1. And then you start to be like, well, that's the issue. I need to go fix that. So start to see that trend, because a lot of times people don't and it sounds crazy because I'm not a high C, right? They don't detail out, or they don't map out what that list looks like, or like what what the trend looks like. So what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's good. That's good. And you kind of took a little piece of what I was going to talk about with that writing it down, because ET talks about 5 minute funks. Okay, get the funk, but stay there for 5 minutes and then get back on. And so I think writing it down, what causes it, help us closes the gap, because now we can say, okay, let me put all my energy and resources into getting out of this thing by fixing X, Y, or Z. And again, that goes back to identifying, really, if it's because I'm not where I want to be as fast as I want to be, then what's the plan? What can you do differently? Because it's insane to just keep getting in the funk over the same thing. So what is the actual goal now that you understand that funk? What is the thing that you're going to do today that will help get you out of it? Corey said movement. Start moving. Writing stuff down is a part of movement, both physical and mental. Write it down. Figure out how you can break it up into smaller milestones, and then start to work towards those things so you can get out of it. So I definitely, and that's something that I'm gonna start doing. I'm supposed to journal every day. When I get into a funk, I don't journal. So maybe
Mm,
I need to start journaling what's going on. What am I thinking about? And don't look at it as a discouraging thing. I think sometimes we're scared to look at it. Like you said, we're scared to think about it because, I shouldn't feel this way. And we make it a bigger issue. But just look at it to revisit and say, okay, here's where I am, tie in the mantra, here's where I should be. Let me start making a movement to get there. And so, yeah, definitely, I'm with you. I'm gonna start making sure I do that as well. Journaling every day, even when the days I don't feel like it. And so I'm gonna wrap up with this principle. This will be my final one. And it piggybacks off of not looking at where somebody else is, not trying to follow somebody else's path. Recognize that you have a specific set of talents, you have your gift. Make sure you know what that gift is. Because a lot of people get in a funk and they stay in that because they're unhappy or unsatisfied with life because they don't know or they're not operating in what they're gifted at. They don't know their genius zone. They don't know what they do best. They know what they do good and they know what they've been trained to do or what they've learned. But what is it that you do better than anybody else? What is it that comes easier to you and harder for other people? What is it that people say about you that say, oh, you really great at doing that? And are you living in that? Are you operating in that? Because I think sometimes I get in a funk for that reason. I'm like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I'm not using the skills that I have. I'm trying to make something else work. Boom. My whole principle, everything I just said, throw that out and use this right here. Stop doing what you're not gifted at. Stop trying to make things work. Do what you're gifted at and it's gonna work automatically. You ain't gonna have to try. That's what they say the Midas touch, or man, that boy, he touched the court, he do what he do. I bet you if he touched something else, it ain't gonna work out. If he go touch somebody's financial books, he gotta make that work. But if you're on your court, if you in your zone and you're doing the best, get it, find that. So stop trying to make it work. Everything I just said, throw it away. This the if you don't remember no principle from the last hour, remember stop trying to make it work and get into the zone where it just works because that's what your genius zone is.
No, when I say you snatched it right from me, right? So my final principle was actually tied into what you do best. And for me, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper than that though. So I'm gonna say you gotta spread happiness. Like when you're in the funk, I find myself, especially the way that I get out of it, by spreading happiness, because I know, again, one of the things that I do best is I'm of the people. I like to be around people. I like to uplift people. And so something for me is I have to spread some happiness, man. I tell you what, I text Coach K. Hadn't talked to him in a minute. Text Coach K, and I was like, man, I don't even want anything from you, but I hope you having a great day. I saw you got the house. It looks great. He hit me back. He was like, I'm having a great day. I appreciate you checking on me. And that was it. I don't want anything from you. I just want for hopefully you read that text message and was like, you know what, my man checked on me. And that was nice. And so I think I sent a text to somebody else too. I can't remember who it was. And I just said, hey, I'm just checking on you. I don't want nothing from you. I hope you're having a great day. And I think, I remember who it was. So this individual went to college. She's trying to be an actress. Hadn't talked to her in forever. But I said, you know what? I said, I see you still working. I said, however, I said, I'm gonna just be honest with you. I see less acting on your page versus more, hey, I need to get this job being a teacher. So I was like, man, just keep at it. You got it. Like, you're going to break through. And she hit me back. She was like, oh, man, I appreciate that, because I feel like I was starting to go to one side, like the easier side. I'm trying to get a job and all that stuff. But she was like, you know what? I really needed that. And I was like, boom. So it's just like spreading happiness. And the thing is we talk about what you put out, you get back. But sometimes we make it more complicated than what it is. I'm putting out happiness. Hey, you know what's going to come find me is happiness, right? Sometimes it's paying it forward. I know a lot of people who pay it forward that, pay for the person behind them meal. They'll just randomly cash app somebody something and be like, hey, lunch on me today. And those people ain't hurting for money at all. To simplify it even more for some of y'all who are of the church, you pay tithes. Part of the tithes is, it will come back to you abundantly. So it's for me is operating in that zone. But what you said was operating within my genius zone. That's within my zone. And it wouldn't make sense for me to be like, you know what? I'm in a funk. Let me go look at all these numbers and crunch data sheets all day and stuff like that. I would be like, yo, I'm even more in a funk, and I'm probably just going to go lay down in bed because my head hurts. So just understand where that zone is, and we gotta drop the mic on that. We gonna have to get you that Rodecaster Pro,
I'm
man,
telling
because we need a bomb after you put that one on there.
boom. We
Yeah,
gonna make up our own sounds until we add that in. Hey, if y'all out there listening, you enjoy the podcast, drop Cash App us so we can put that roadcast up.
right. Cash. You know what we need to start doing though? We need to you know what I'm saying? Like we need to start putting that cash. I've seen a lot of people that's getting money. Like, so here's what I'm gonna say, Tyrus. And I know this ain't got nothing to do with getting out of funk. It could get us out of funk if y'all pay. But a lot of people have been monetizing these social media platforms, i.e., Facebook, Instagram. They buying badges and all that other stuff. To be honest with you, I mean, if y'all rock with the podcast, man, we might need to drop that Cash App in there, because here's the thing: we're not asking for money just to ask for it. We're asking for money to give you a better experience. So it's like literally we're just building the podcast together. So just transparently, we might need to put that Cash App in there, man.
In the star, I don't even know what the stars mean, but I know when I'm on Man and Fresh when he going live, he be
Yeah.
stars. I'm like, what is the
Yeah,
star?
it's like folks is buying. I'm telling you, folks are sending $1, $3, $5, $10, like stuff like that. Like, I'm like, man. But the thing is, it only allows that person to give you a better experience. So, better equipment. And I think David Shan said this before. He said, man, everything that I make off my YouTube and I make off my regular content creation, he said, I don't even spend it. I just put it back in it because the viewers are giving me money and I'm just pouring it back in to give them a better experience.
That's
So I'm like, shoot,
yeah,
it takes a village, man.
that's dope there. That's a great thing. We ain't asking y'all for no money right now.
Right. Not right now, at least.
We gonna get y'all. We gonna put the cash out, fly it up there, let y'all donate to the cause.
Right.
Hey, stand up for the cause.
Right.
But recapping this thing, and we're gonna get out of here. We gave y'all a lot of principles on how to escape the funk, how to get out of it. I mean, for me, when I listen to Corey's principles, when I listen to mine, it really gives me a lot to think about. And for you, reassess. Take some time and think through it and see what works for you. Is it writing it down? Is it journaling? Is it creating that mantra? Is it sitting back and saying, okay, what's my why? What's my purpose? Is it falling in love with the process? Is it creating movement and structure? Is it planning out the goals? Is it understanding your genius zone? Is it finding that person that will listen to you and that you can bounce ideas off of? Figure out what works for you and then begin to apply those things so you don't live in the funk. We want to escape it. We're not saying it's not going to come, but we don't want to stay there. Figure out how you can lessen the amount of time you're in the funk and how you can move out of it. Corey, you got anything else?
No, that's it. I mean, embrace the emotions, embrace the feeling. But again, that goes back to the process, because even us sitting here having this conversation is us having been through the process. We can't talk about this if we never got through a funk. So if you think about it, this whole podcast would have been us just being like, yep, still in it. And you just got to let your feelings feel, but we never got out of it. No one actually cares about that piece, to be honest with you. Everybody cares about how you can overcome it. And that's what the empowerment platform is all about, right? Like, what does success look like to you? And part of that success is acknowledging what happens during the process of you trying to get to success. So yeah, man, everything that Tyrus echoed, we're gonna drop the Cash App at the bottom. Man, I'm gonna just matter of fact, I'm gonna just call him. I'm just call a couple folks out, because I think based on the analytics, it shows that we probably get about 600 viewers consistently, 500-600. Man, if I all dropped $1, just saying,
That's a Roadcaster Pro right there.
right there, and we can start dropping bombs and all that.
Hey, you can call in.
Yeah, you can call in on that thing.
Call in on that thing.
Oh, that would be dope to get some folks calling in, and that we could actually like get them involved too.
Yeah, and that's was my ultimate vision of this thing. We're gonna let y'all go. Was to create that radio station feel to where you can call in, talk about what you want to talk about, and have us address it live for the people that wake. Because whatever issue that one of us have, more people have it too. and the advice is always helpful. So we're going to get out of here. We're going to let y'all go. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Empowerment Platform, where our mission is to help you reach your goals, whatever they may be. We'll catch you next time. Later. Welcome to